We're speaking with Kahlia. She's a content creator, a streamer, a gamer, and most importantly, she's an ambassador for Reach Out. So let's jump in and have a listen. Welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks for swinging by. We're at episode 2 or wherever this episode falls, I guess. But we're excited to speak to like-minded people in the industry, marketing adjacent, people that know what's going on in and around the world.
Yeah. I mean, it's a small compact industry, but it's also huge.
Yeah. Do you find that in Melbourne that there's a lot of everyone knows everyone, right?
Oh, it's always like that. Such a small world. You'll meet someone and they'll talk about someone. You'll be like, wait, what? I know that person. But you'll have no, like, you won't know where they came from. Like, you wouldn't have known about them. And then you're like, oh, you know this person. You know this person. It's crazy. It's small.
How do you reckon, how do people break into that circle, right? Because it's sort of one circle.
I honestly have in Australia it is. So when I first started streaming, I was living in the UK, and in England or in Europe in general, it's like a way bigger industry, way bigger. So you still have that like, oh my gosh, you know this person, you know this person. It happens because, you know, the streaming community in general is small in comparison to the world. But moving to Australia, it is such a small circle and everybody knows everybody of all different sizes as well, because it's, not as big here. But yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my follow-up. Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't know. Yeah. Like, I have definitely found a difference in the mindset of, like, Australians versus European when it comes to content creation, I guess. But maybe that's also because I know more people in Australia because it is so small. So you see more of it. I don't know.
And you're pretty sort of hyper-focused on that as well, because a lot of your demographic is in Europe.
Yeah, yeah. So I stream the DGen hours. So when I was in the UK, I used to stream sort of afternoon time, which I would start at 1 a.m. Australian time. So when I moved to Australia, I had to go to like 9 p.m. start time. So I usually stream from like 9 p.m. till 2 a.m. That's okay.
Just to capture both audiences.
Yeah, so that way I get sort of nighttime Australian audiences and sort of I'm like the daytime work and lurk streamer for a lot of my viewers during the day now. Yeah. So like while they're working, they'll just have me on the second screen.
Does that lean itself to that more like just chatting type?
I mean, I am so chatty. Like I just don't, I don't shut up. So even when I'm playing a game, it kind of is almost like, it almost is like listening to a podcast or just listening to me yap away about something or commentate the game or a bit of both and have conversations with people. So, yeah.
And what got you into streaming?
So I've always been a gamer because my older brother, he's 7 years older than me, and when I was like 3, he probably handed me my first Game Boy and I was playing Pokemon. Then I was obsessed with The Sims and all these other games. And then I was working full-time as a personal trainer. I used to be a dancer, but that ended due to injuries. I was working as a PT and I was actually going to uni in the UK as well. And COVID happened and my ex at the time was like, you should stream on Twitch. You're gaming all the time anyway. And we actually found out about Twitch because we used to do like a pub quiz. And when COVID happened, they took that pub quiz to Twitch, and that's how I made an account. So I made an account on Twitch to do a pub quiz.
How funny, yeah.
And then, he was just like, you should do this because like you talk to yourself all the time anyway, and you might as well talk to people.
Right, yeah.
And I was like, no, I could never do that. I could never. And then Christmas 2020, he got me just like $30 microphone, a PlayStation camera because I was just gaming on my PS4. So the crappiest little PlayStation camera, and you can go live like directly from your PlayStation. Yep. So when you first start, you don't even need like a giant PC setup or anything. And then, it was the 17th of December 2020. I just went live. I was playing Immortals Phoenix Rising, which is like this little Ubisoft game that was its own, like Ubisoft's version of sort of Breath of the Wild. And I was just loving the game, and that's how it started. And I knew nobody. I knew nothing about Twitch. I was such a noob.
What was the thing? What was the thing when you were streaming? What was the feeling, the sentiment that you went, yeah, I can do this?
So when I had to stop dancing, it was really rough for me mentally because it had sort of been what I'd done my entire life and dedicated my whole life to. And I'd lost that part of my life. And when I started streaming, I think it almost fulfilled sort of a part of me that I thought I'd lost with dancing, and that is the performing aspect of it. And you're not like performing and being fake when you're streaming, but it is, you're on camera, you're high energy. It's, I call it my virtual stage.
And you're not that when you're dancing either, right? Like you embody a personality.
Yeah.
But you're not being fake.
You're not being fake. You're performing.
Yeah.
You're performing. You're on stage. You're embodying a character or something. And I don't think streaming, you're not really like a character. I mean, some people do. Some people have like a full separate persona just for streaming or whatever they're doing or content. But I am incredibly transparent. I am like 100% me, zero filter, and people either love it or they hate it. Like,
do you think that like one, that's sort of admirable to be able to put yourself in a position where you can be honest and authentic and whatnot. But do you think that people maybe rely on those characters as a bit of a defense mechanism to be able to sort of separate themselves from the audience, right? Like,
yeah. Also, some people might like rely on those sort of characters because they do want to keep their life private or their personality private or whatever. And I've met content creators that are like me and who are sort of just like fully open, and then some that, you know, completely hide most aspects of their private life. And there's no right or wrong. It's just preference and how open you want to be. It's the internet. So
yeah, sure. Yeah. And I mean, even if you yourself are being fully transparent and open, the audience doesn't know that.
No, they
right?
know
like,
what you tell them.
Right, exactly.
So like people on my stream could think they know me or think they know a side of me, and I could be a completely different person. I'm not, but it is something I do have to remind, because there is like a huge thing online with like parasocial behaviors, and that's really big on Twitch, because you have this sort of contact with your content creator in a way that, you know, YouTubers don't, for instance. So if you like love this YouTuber and maybe you have a Discord or a community and everything, but you could just be, you're watching this person talk to you. Whereas when you're streaming, you're interacting with this person, you're having conversations. And sometimes, you know, after months or years of that, people can view you like, oh my God, this is my best friend. And you're like, hey, no. I like to be very realistic. And I'm like, you know a side of me, but like, you don't know me.
Sure.
I'm a person. At the end of the day, I'm just a person living their life. And I call them my internet family, because I'm like, we have this really close community and bond and, you know, safe spaces where you can talk. And I like encouraging sort of difficult conversations as well. But then sometimes that can lead to that parasocial, like I'm relying on you and I'm leaning on you. And it took me a few years to get to the point, but now I'm very like boundaries.
Yeah, sure.
I'm like, I am this to you, but I am not this.
Yeah.
And when you put those boundaries are very important, but when those boundaries are in place, it can be a really nice environment.
Did you have some moments where you were sort of forced to realize what those boundaries were?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. There was one chatter in particular who was in my community for 3 years, pretty much from the beginning. It's been almost 4 years now. But after about 3, or maybe after 2 years, they became a little bit more, I want to use the word obsessive, where it was like, you know, trying to contact me and sending me very intense messages. And then it got to the point where they were like, I'm in love with you. And like, I wasn't responding after a while, because I was like, oh God, like my DMs are now closed for reasons like this. But when I first started, I didn't know that. I didn't have those boundaries. So my DMs were open, and that's how it slipped in. And after a while, it just got a little bit too much and inappropriate. And I was like, can you please stop? And then my mods, so you have moderators, they were like, just ban. Like, you have to like nip this in the bud. And so I did. And that person went a little bit crazy, and like they found out where I worked, and they were like pretty much just like stalking me in a way.
Yeah.
And a few months after I banned them, they were like messaging everyone trying to get unbanned. They sent me an email pretty much saying that their original plan was to come to Australia to find me. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to tell me how they feel in person. But then they went to therapy and they realized they're not ready for a relationship.
Sure.
And they don't want me to cheat on Mark.
Sure.
Like, this is the delusion, the level of delusion.
Sure.
Whereas, like, if there's a message that I had to send them or I got someone to send them for me, that's like, you do not know me. You do not have a relationship with me. Please stop contacting me and leave me alone. And even after getting messages like that, they still have this delusion. So that side of content creation or being online, I mean, I think it's everyone, but particularly as a woman online, can be really scary. Sure. And it's not just men as well. I've had the same, you know, some problems with women as well. Yeah.
So do you think that there's a, like, just bringing it back to that sort of like authenticity, like it'd be more important for you to be able to create those boundaries being your authentic self, right? Like, because if you were a character and people fall in love with a character, like you'd sort of be able to, you'd be able to brush it off, wouldn't you?
You brush it off. But because I share like intimate details about my life, like what I did for work before I was full-time, I was working as a PT. So all you have to do is like look up gyms in Melbourne and try to find me and you don't think people are going to do that, but they do.
Yeah, people are creeps, right?
They do. Even when like, you know, I do okay as a content creator, but again, Australia is a much smaller place. And in the grand scheme of things, I'm a small content creator. So I just, you know, you don't expect those things to happen. Like someone like Amaranth had this crazy fan who I think they like sold everything they owned and like dedicated their life to trying to find her and kill her. Like that's crazy mental stuff like that. Yeah. And they were like filming the whole thing. They were obviously having some sort of like psychosis. But, you know, you sort of expect that with the larger streamers because who are almost on the same level as like celebrities. Yeah. And then, but you just don't think of that as a smaller creator.
Yeah. Well,
it happens to anyone at any size because it just takes one person.
Yeah. So do you think in the process of sort of creating this identity as a streamer, as a content creator, do you feel like you're sort of pigeonholing yourself into an industry or sort of a type of sort of existence, I guess? I
felt like that recently actually, and I didn't like that feeling. So it was actually just before I went full-time in content creation, and I saw myself as like, I'm a Twitch streamer. I was like, I'm a Twitch streamer. And now I've sort of moved on to like, no, I'm a content creator and it's broad, and I want to break out from the I am a Twitch streamer because I'm so much more than that. I'm a person. So sort of widening what I'm doing as a creator and posting on other socials, and also doing different things like a little bit of modeling, a little bit of cosplaying, and trying to just break out of that one pigeonhole thing like this is what I do, because I'm a person and I have multiple interests and talents and I want to utilize that. But yeah.
Yeah, because a question that I've always thought about as somebody who streamed for a period of time, I've told you this before. Streamed back in 2012.
You never should have stopped. You could have been
a long
the next
time ago.
XQC. Like.
I know, a long time ago. I mean, yeah, look at me. I could have been. A long time ago. And it always felt like the type of thing you had to really be. It's like you really had to dive in and do it, or it wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's a condition of the fact that you've sort of maybe got to the precipice, you've got to the hill, you've got to the point in now where you can be flexible. You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's also a time thing. Like just being full-time gave me the ability to do more than just streaming, because when I was working a full-time job and trying to stream like 3-4 nights a week on top of that, I didn't have time for anything else.
And exhausting.
I'm so tired all the time.
Yeah.
And I didn't have time to do my editing or to make, you know, Instagram content and stuff like that. And now because I'm full-time, I do have the time to do all of that, which is nice for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's great to hear that you're trying to branch out a little bit.
Yeah.
So like a question that I asked myself back is like, where does it end? Like, what's the end point of streaming?
You're going to send me into an existential crisis.
I don't mean to. But like the idea of like being like an influencer, content creator, it's like, what's the next step beyond that, right? Like, and you could answer that in I think a whole bunch of different ways. But like, is that something that you've considered? Or
I think about it all the time, and I panic about it all the time.
Sorry to be
no, it's okay. I'm in therapy.
Sorry.
No, but things like that, like I have spoken about that with my therapist, because every now and then I'll have like a little panic and be like, what am I doing? Or like, I'm okay now, but what am I going to be doing when I'm 40? Like, I don't think, I mean, I'll probably still be streaming.
Why not?
But
if it works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just because I love it.
Yeah.
But I've sort of come to the conclusion that like what will be will be. And I'm trying to have the mindset a little bit more of just living in the moment, taking each day as it comes with like, you know, a rough plan of where I want to go. And right now I'm in the point of, you know, I'm still trying to build my brand, for instance, and grow all of that. So I'm just trying to put my focus in that. And then when the time comes to move on, I feel like it's one of those industries that it just happens. Like, or I just change industries.
Sure.
So I don't know what I'm going to want to do in 10 years, because 10 years ago, I had no idea I'd be doing this. I just accidentally fell into streaming because gaming was a passion of mine, and so was performing, and I just sort of combined it. But I think there are lots of different avenues to go down. You can either go into like sort of behind the scenes a little bit more, like PR agencies or managing creators is also an option. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of things.
Yeah.
And I'll figure
I mean, you
it
can
out,
see.
right?
Sorry. I mean, you can see it with the streamers that have been around for a period of time. You know, building businesses in almost whatever way they want to, right? Like,
I mean, look at Pokey.
I
was gonna say, look at Pokey. She started off as a streamer, and now she's like high fashion influencer, and she's living her life. Valkyrie owns is like a shareholder in what was it called? 100 Thieves. Yeah. So like, I feel like it just happens. Obviously, I'm not Pokemon or Valkyrie, but like
not yet.
But yeah, I feel like what will be will be. It'll happen, and I'll fall into something the way I fell into this.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a unknown. Like you don't know what's out there.
We don't know what the world's going to be like in 5 years, even like with how fast AI is.
Sure.
Oh my gosh! All of
even
these
the
things.
virtual streamers, you know,
VTubers, things like that. Like it's huge. I don't know if Twitch is going to exist in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Yeah. Like if the platform, you know, goes under or goes down, like something else will pop up, and will that be the new thing? But do you have to start from scratch from there? And it's also a reason why I'm branching out.
So what do you think are what are the skills that make a good streamer a good streamer, do you think?
I think interaction is like the number one thing, because if somebody just wanted to go watch someone do like a let's play, they'll go watch a YouTube video of their favorite YouTuber. The thing that's really, really special about Twitch is the community, and Twitch is the community. We're one giant community with millions of mini communities who intertwine constantly, and it's really, really beautiful. And I really love that side of Twitch. And I've met some of my best friends online. Like I have these 3 friends in particular who are 3 Swedish girls that I met really early on when I started streaming. And 4 years later, they're still my best friends. I live on the other side of the world. I'm about to go travel Asia with one of them. Like, I never would have met them if it wasn't for Twitch. So same with like so many other people on the platform. So the community, you know, relationship with your community, you can help people. The way that you affect people's lives just by being a positive influence is really incredible. So I think interaction is like the number one thing with streaming. Responding, like especially when you're a new streamer. People ask me all the time, like, do you have any tips for new streamers? I'm like, first of all, don't look at your numbers. Don't worry about analytics, and just like focus on who is there to hang out with you, whether it's 1 person, 2 people, or 100 people. You know, those people are sitting there with you and enjoying your content, and, you know, interacting with them is what brings that bond and relationship with the community. So that's always like number one, most important thing to have.
And are there sort of different approaches to that, do you think, in that like you have quite a sort of empathetic approach to your interaction, and it's you care about your audience and stuff, but do you think that there are other ways in which you can sort of interact with people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are also streamers that aren't so interactive, but are like amazing at a game.
Right.
So I think
it's more an entertainment service.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's why it's great that there are so many different channels on Twitch, because you can find whatever you want to find on there. But some people will quite literally ignore, not really interact with the chat, and focus on like an FPS game or something that requires your full focus, but then they're just cracked and they get like hitting heads left, right, and center, and people love watching them there. So you don't necessarily have to be interactive in that way, but you still have to be interactive, for instance, with your gameplay to be entertaining.
Yeah, okay.
If you were sitting there and you're even if you're cracked, but if you're just sitting there like that's
why
not,
would you watch that? Yeah.
that's not entertaining.
Sure.
You also don't have to try too hard to be entertaining. Just be yourself. Like 100% be yourself. Don't try to imitate others either. I always say finding inspiration from other streamers is a like really important part of finding yourself and where you are on this platform. But copy and pasting, imitating never works. And it will never work for you or for anybody else. So I feel like that's also really important to stay true to yourself and be yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you have to take inspiration from other people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I did. I did. Absolutely.
Yeah. Where do you start? If you don't know what is best practice, is what is good.
Exactly.
Like,
also just trial and error, and just, you see something, you're like, oh, I want to try that.
Yeah.
And then you try that in your own way while still staying true to yourself, but bringing the inspiration from the other people around you. And that's how we as creators grow, is because we are, pulling that inspiration from people around us.
So I've got I've got game number 1 of the 2 games we're going to play today. This is less of a game and more just this is just going to be some rapid fire questions. I want you to answer as quick as you possible.
Oh my gosh.
There's only a handful, so don't stress too much. Ready?
Yes.
Name your first cat.
Oh, Caesar.
Name of your current cat.
Riley.
What game are you playing currently?
Life is Strange Double Exposure.
First game you ever played?
Pokemon.
First console you played it on?
Or Game Boy.
Game Boy.
Color, I think.
First D&D character?
I have never played D&D.
Never played? What do you mean? You talk about it all the time.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Okay. All right. What was your first character in that?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Last one. Name your first sub.
My first sub? On Twitch? Oh, okay. I'm going to say, I don't know if it's either like who I sub to.
No, I know.
Or who subbed to me.
you?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's either Ace King or Fizzy Joe.
Cute. That's
and
good.
Fizzy Joe is still in my community 4 years later, and Ace pops in.
That's awesome.
They found me in like my second stream. I always use this story whenever Joe resubs, because he's on like 46 months or something crazy right now. And whenever Joe comes in, I'm always like, guys, Joe found me on my second ever stream. I was stuck on a puzzle and I asked him to Google it for me. And he'd never watched Twitch before either. So it was his first day on Twitch. It was my second ever stream. I knew nobody. And he just popped in. We were just chatting. And, almost 4 years later, he's still around. That's so cool.
That's awesome.
So cool.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Yeah, I only ever had one sub. Because back in the day, it was only... It was more donos than it was subs back in the day.
Okay, that's interesting.
My friend Ryan from high school did it and then like immediately cancelled it. But it was just so I got the little notification on there. It was so cute.
Yeah, when you first get affiliate and you're like,
so
please
cute.
subscribe.
That's awesome. I want to ask you about the transition away from streaming into that more content creator space. And how do you how do you use that sort of empathetic approach, that authenticity in your brand work and in the way you interact with brands?
That's really interesting. That's a good question. I like to have the creative freedom when working with a brand, because anytime you work with, a company, they give you a brief, right? You get a brief and this is what you are to execute when you're creating content for them. And I've noticed that some brands are more like, here's the brief, but I want you to just come up with your own objective, your own script kind of thing. And some people are a little bit more, this is what we want. And that clashes sometimes. So I've had briefs where I'm like, I don't feel like this is how I want to execute this, or this is what's good for my audience. And at the end of the day, when you're working with the creator knows their audience, knows what they want to do, knows their content. And I think brands need to sort of merge their ideas with that a little bit more.
Yeah, okay.
Because when I've created content for a brand that has given me complete freedom, when I've sent the video in, they've gone, I love it. This is like exactly what we want and we didn't have to ask for it. And that always, you know, translates so much better at like as a creator than when you're like forced to do something you don't necessarily want to do. And I feel like I've never taken a deal where I've like hated the product, because I'm very big on like, I will only ever work with brands that I genuinely use naturally and love. And it's always really important to me that I like the people behind the brand too, because even if I love a brand, but the people there are just a bit bleh, I'd be like, oh, no, thank you.
So that
thank you.
From an approach of like UGC, user generated content, I completely agree. Like the brand needs to be aligned with your own values. Their values need to align with your audience's values. Otherwise, you can just see straight through it, right?
It needs to be taken in consideration when picking a creator to work with, because if you pick a creator that just does not match what you are looking for, it is not going to translate. If you want, you know, that brief to look a specific way and you were set on that and you're like, then you find that creator that goes with that rather than trying to make another creator merge into what you want them to be when that's not the way that there's so many creators out there, man, and there's enough work for all of us. And I feel like, rather than just being like, oh, gamer, all right, pick any gamer.
Sure.
It's like, no, we're people and we have different personalities and different strengths and different weaknesses, and you need to analyze that when picking these for a job.
How does a brand or how does a company analyze that, do you think?
I think you need to like doing a little bit more research on who you're hiring. Like, watch their stream. Are they a Twitch streamer? Pop into their stream. What are they like naturally? What is their vibe like naturally when they don't know you're watching? Look at their other content. Look at their pictures. Look at their reels. And what if that matches what you want? Because if it's not, then you're like, oh, maybe someone else. But if it matches and you like the vibe, or even if it wasn't the idea that you had in your head, but then you watch it and you're like, oh, actually, then work with them.
Yeah.
But I think it's just doing your research and not just going, oh my God, this is a gamer? Perfect.
Yeah.
It's because gamer, what does gamer mean? Anyone can be a gamer.
Because it's sort of like it's a different approach. Like from agency side, traditionally back in the day, you'd go to a casting agent. You say, this is what I'm looking for, and they'd go through their talent list. And then maybe you hold auditions, or maybe the casting agency might hold auditions on your behalf, and then they, shortlist, and then you go from there, right? What you're sort of suggesting here is that like do that research is the audition, right? It's replacing that. Like the Instagram page or the Twitch page or whatever platform you're looking to use, that's your CV. That's your application. And I think creators have to remember that with their content. Like when a brand goes to, look for someone for a gig, they're going to look at what you've got and they're going to look at who you are online. Yeah. So how do you separate the UGC content creator and the commercial product Kahlia? The actress, are they separate? Do you separate them? Like, is there room for the, modeling in a fashion that is potentially not your vibe or? I don't think I would get the job. Like, I just don't think there is. Like, I like doing modeling, but like, I'm not a runway model. Like, I'm short and I've got tattoos and I like wearing jewelry and piercings. And so there's a market for that. There's that alt commercial modeling, like edgy sort of market, which works really well with that look. I'm never going to get like, if someone tries to hire me for high fashion, like they won't. Well, I mean, I don't know if that's entirely true, but it's all brand values and what they're trying to push and whatnot, right? I guess I'm just thinking from sort of agency side in that like sometimes it's about aesthetic. Yeah. It doesn't go any further than that. Like I need this, the art direction for this piece is X. Yeah. I need to fill this hole with X. Like all of the other stuff sort of falls by the wayside a little bit. Like it's less relevant to the conversation. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely. And then in that case, you're not looking for a content creator, you're looking for an actor. And luckily I have a background in performing, so I can do it all. Yeah. No, but that's my point. Is so exactly. Like, is there a separation between, and if there's not, should there be? There definitely should be. And I think there is because, if you give me a gig and you give me a script and you'll say, I want you to be like this. And I'm like, okay, I am an actor right now.
and this is what I want to do. This is what I need to do. And that is very different versus
access to your audience.
This is a content creator and this is who she is. And we want her personality to shine through. That's content creation, and then that's acting.
Yeah.
And there's a app or such website called The Right Fit, if you know it. And it is like a sort of casting app for both creators and talent. And what they've got, and which does distinguish the difference between it, is they have like jobs for talent and jobs for creators, and they separate that. And so in the creator section, there's more like UGC work or sponsored things or posts and and in the talent section, it's like casting calls for an ad, for an audition, for this, for that. Yeah. So that is the difference between both.
So do you think that brands try and take advantage of the sort of trying to, cake and eat it too type scenario?
With content creators?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A content creator isn't necessarily a good actor. Like I truly believe that I'm good at streaming because of my background, on stage and being a performer.
Yeah.
And so I can do that stuff because it's a part of the career that I had before streaming. Whereas if you just take, if we go like stereotypical, gamer might feel comfortable being like outspoken and extroverted on stream because that is their safe place. That is I'm in my study, I'm in my home, I've got a camera on me, this is my place where I feel comfortable. And then you put them in front of a camera in a studio with bright lights and they can't speak or act, or it's almost monotone because they don't have that training in performing and reading and I don't know. Yeah. So you do have to think about what you want if you're a brand working with a creator, because if you're looking for a personality, you're looking for that to shine through, then that is a completely different thing to wanting someone to do an ad.
And do you think that there's an element of content creators are cheaper?
Yes. Yeah. I think especially with UGC work, that you don't even have to be like a streamer or have a following or anything to do UGC work, because usually it's really bad. But I see so many on like Star Now and The Right Fit. It's like, will you do this UGC? $100. Like they are like $100 for a UGC, like and they're like no usage rights, no this, no that, and you're just like, you are taking advantage.
Taking the piss, yeah.
Yeah, and often it's young people who want to get into content creation who are like, oh, yes!
I got paid for something.
I got paid. Yeah. And I'm like, no, don't undersell yourself, because do you know how much money that would cost them? Like,
yeah. And then they'll go away and they'll put thousands of dollars behind ads of it. And the $100.
And you got $100.
Yeah.
You got $100. Like, it's ridiculous. So that it's definitely hard as well. And especially if we're talking about streamers or content creation, a lot of well-known brands do the contra collabs. So they're like, you love our brand, we have this name, you want to look good on your page, do you know what, we're going to give you this product worth X amount of money and we want you to create a video for us in exchange for the product. But then that company gets, an ad for free. They just give you a product, they get an ad for free, and they're probably going to use it for advertisement as well. And you're just getting nothing. And so many content creators are just excited to work with these brands. So they do. So they're like, yes, I'll do this for free. And then I'm like, at the end of the day, you have to make a living. This is your business and they are getting something out of it too. Like you shouldn't let yourself be taken advantage of, and you need to know your worth as a creator.
Yeah.
And if you haven't come from the performing industry, you might not know that. And you might just be excited that someone's going to pay you $100 to do something, or someone's going to give you a product, or you have contact with this company that you really love. And it does suck. And I feel like there should be more education on that when you're starting out as a creator, because I didn't know these things either when I first started. I had no idea.
Looking at it from like traditional pathway, like for the longest time, if you wanted to be an actor, the only way you'd be an actor is you got representation. You got an agency to back you, or a manager to back you, and then they would go and find the work for you.
Yeah.
So all of that knowledge, somebody already had it for you.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas it coming in as content creator, like there are agencies that exist now that can do that.
I have opinions on that too.
But they're not going to pick you up from day dot. You're not going to go and apply and be like, oh, I've got 2 followers on Instagram. Can you represent me? They're like, come back when you've got 20,000. Come back when you've got, whatever, right? But there's a long road between that 2 followers and that 20.
And you need to get there. Yeah. And
then, where you will get taken advantage of.
Exactly.
Because people in the industry know that they can go and pay $100 and they will get that UGC thing and take advantage of whoever it was. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Management in the content creation world is really interesting. I feel like there's so many different sort of management agencies, and I'm now with one that like I adore and is just incredible. And I have this relationship, very close relationship. She's a friend of mine, and she's just so hardworking, and she's really great at communication and just keeping me in the loop. But I tried a couple of management agencies before that, and it feels a little bit like take on as many creators as you can so that we have this, but then they make you be exclusive, right? So like take you as many creators as you can, so we have like a casting agency, we have this list. And then when, a job comes up, we can present ABC creators, however many there are, and then they'll pick them. But you're not actually working with this person and trying to help them grow their brand and helping them find gigs that suit them and, actually looking for work for them.
Yeah.
So creators, even of my size, and I do well, just miss out because they're a little bit more about, the money, I guess.
Sure.
And like bigger creators make you more money. And if they get, 15 to 20% or whatever, then that's what they're going to put their focus into. And then a lot of people get left behind where that's not necessarily the smartest thing to do, because these sort of mid creators are actually, in my opinion, what works for brands better, because they're not spending $20,000 on a crazy streamer who has, maybe 1 million followers, but that's a little bit more comparable to like, that YouTube mindset of like the community, but not that close community. Yeah. Whereas if you take a streamer with maybe who has like a couple thousand, like closer people, they're going to be way more influenced by their creator and want to support their creator and want to help their creator than someone with millions. So it's just making that choice with what you want, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to play game number 2.
Game number two.
This is Guess the Sound. So we've done a Guess the Brand last week. We did a bit of a jingle thing. So this is a combination. There's a couple of sounds, some brands in there. There's things. You'll be able to get them. There is you'll be able to get them. There's a bit of a whoosh between each sound. So it's like the whoosh is not a guess.
Okay.
So I'm going to play it and
see how good I am at this. That's Mario. The wow. Dun, 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 dun. Nutcracker.
So you got 2 in the guess. So did you know the first one?
Wait, no.
It's quick, right? This is a hard challenge.
Wait, was that the whole thing?
That's the whole thing. This is a hard challenge.
I was like Nutcracker, Mario.
Do you want me to play again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dark Souls. Was it?
So what do you guess? So it's number 1.
I have no idea.
Scotty's Cordial.
I have no idea.
You don't even know what that is?
Brand? No.
Oh, it's like one of the all-time famous. Maybe you weren't in Australia when that was an all-time.
I did leave for 8 years.
Yeah.
I heard Dark Souls.
It was the...
You died?
No, it's the Lost Grace in Elden Ring.
Oh, yes. Okay. I was like, there we go.
Yeah. Close.
Close.
Mario Falling Sound.
Mario
and then
Falling.
the last one being Nutcracker.
Nutcracker.
Because I thought, ballet.
Yeah, ballet. I was like, Nutcracker for sure. Okay, yeah. Play the Elden Ring one again. I want to hear it.
Okay.
I didn't hear it the first time round at all. Okay, yeah.
You got it now?
Yeah, similar. I'm more of a Dark Souls 3 girly than an Elden Ring girl, but I love both.
Earlier today, I just went onto your Twitch page. I was just like, recent played. Oh, you played Elden Ring?
I did.
Song from Elden Ring. Like sound from Elden Ring. That was as far as I went into it. So poor pick by me.
I did play Elden Ring. The DLC came out this year and it was awesome.
Yeah. Just a gamer.
I just love video games so much.
That is good. So I want to, one of the things that you've been working on a lot, I see it all over, speaking at panels and whatnot, is around the idea of mental health and mental health in the industry.
Yeah.
What are some of the things? What are some of the conversations do you think that are sort of popping up in today's world?
So, I love talking about mental health. I have been through my own mental health journey. I think the way that everybody has, and I like to be incredibly transparent and open about my own experiences to sort of encourage people to let go of the stigma around it. And I've still met people who, if someone goes, oh, I'm struggling with anxiety, like that sort of, I don't know, stigma around it, that it's like attention seeking.
Yep.
And I just like, I don't know, I like to advocate for like, it's not. Like, talk about how you feel. And it's not, a big thing on the internet is the word like trauma dumping, especially in Twitch. Trauma dumping is huge. And you absolutely need boundaries, but I actually hate the term trauma dumping because it's so negative. It's like someone's struggling with something and they've put that in your chat and you're like, oh, trauma dumping. Yeah. I'm like, if you have boundaries and you want to eliminate mental health conversations from your stream and you want to have, I'm like, I respect that. That's totally fine. But I really like, I don't know, being a space where I can say, how are you today? And you can go, do you know what? I'm actually feeling like shit today. And that's okay. I think it's okay to acknowledge that we do just feel like shit.
That we all do?
That we all do. Yeah, that we have days. You have good days, you have bad days. We need the bad days to appreciate the good days. Otherwise, what the hell is life?
Sure. Do you feel like you have like a bit of a responsibility to talk about it?
I don't think I have a responsibility to, but I really enjoy being a part of it. Yeah. Yeah, because I think
it's an important conversation.
It's an important conversation, and because, I was so heavily impacted by my own struggles, and I know that a lot of people online often turn to the internet because they're experiencing similar things or hide away. So I think being a positive influence, even if it's for 10 people, like you can make a difference in 10 people's lives, and that's really, really cool. So there's that side of it where, you are handling those sort of mental health topics live that I really like being a part of. But then there's also the side of mental health with streaming where you got to take care of yourself. Sure. Because the internet is such a toxic environment. Yeah, brutal. For so many reasons. Like there's trolls, there's negativity everywhere. There's not everyone is ever going to like you. There's always going to be people that dislike you, people that hate on you. And as a woman, probably also other genders, but like particularly as a woman with my experience, being sexualized is huge as well. And being, I don't know, the ye old, what's your OnlyFans? And again, not a negative thing, but it's that thing around the internet that women aren't always respected as much.
It's the expectation that you must,
or that I can't really be a gamer because I'm a woman. Sure. And I only started streaming for attention. Also great. And I'm like, you only started streaming games for attention. I'm like, you don't know me. You don't know me, man. So that's a huge thing.
How do you battle that? Because do you feel like you have to sort of, trudge through the mud and prove that? Like,
you don't have to prove yourself to anyone. I feel like you find your people online. That's what's so beautiful about the internet. There is such a wide range of people, and that is why it's so important. There are so many different streamers because you'll vibe with one and not another, and that doesn't mean one's better than the other. It just means that your personality matches with this person's personality, or you enjoy their humor or their whatever content they're making. But as a content creator as well, you got to take care of your mental health because it is very similar to dancing, actually. Also in therapy, because my therapist helps me with this a lot. Because I come from a background where because of ballet, it started with ballet. I'm a perfectionist. I'm incredibly hard on myself.
Which is part of the craft, right?
Which is part of the craft. Yeah. And I have incredibly high expectations for myself. And when I don't live up to my expectations, I mentally beat on myself. And I'm like, it's your fault. You're not good enough. You're this, you're not. Your content's not good enough. You're not entertaining. And those sort of thoughts creep in a lot when you're creating content, or even while you're live. That's why my advice for every single streamer out there is turn off your numbers and do not look at views while you're live, because it can completely affect, because if, you know, there's always a benchmark. So when it comes to like viewership numbers, when you have 10 viewers, when you get 30 viewers, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I have 30 people watching me. But then maybe it keeps growing to 50 and then you're like, oh my gosh, there's 50 people watching me. And then 2 weeks later, you're back down to 30 for a couple of weeks and now you're disappointed by that number. And then you grow and then there's a couple hundred and you're like, oh my gosh, I could never imagine having like 200 people watching me.
Yeah.
But then maybe one day it's at 120 and you're like, what am I doing wrong? And it's that's how it affects you, and it makes you doubt. You're like, what am I doing differently? What am I doing wrong? Why? Or even like the toxic trying to compare yourself to other people, which is never helpful, because you're all different and, you know, we're working against an algorithm as well. So that sort of toxic mindset creeps in a lot with content creation. I'm maybe a little bit more, I can talk a little bit more about it with streaming rather than like, you know, I'm sure YouTubers and other people in content creation experience similar things in their industries. But particularly with streaming, it's a lot of the time it's like CCV is like your benchmark. And that can hugely affect your mental health and how you view yourself. And it's so easy to get into this negative spiral and loop of I'm not good enough and blaming yourself, which is just never beneficial for you in the long run.
Because it's sort of explicit, right? Like there's a legitimate number that you can directly associate to how well you're doing.
Yeah.
Right?
So
like
a lot of time working with brands, it is what's your 30, 60, 90 day CCV? What's this? And then if it's dropped, you almost feel, at least I have this, I almost feel embarrassed. Sure. I'm like, what the hell is happening? But that's just content creation, man. Like it's like this, it goes down, up, a little bit down, you go down, and then you go further up, you go down, then up. And obviously it's different for everyone. I've heard stories about people who have streamed for, 6 years on 5-10 viewers and then just blown up. And then some people have more of a gradual. So there's no one way to success. And success is also measured by, yourself and what you want out of your life. I've recently very much separated myself from the online world, being like, no, I'm a person. I'm a person first, and my job is my job. And, if you have that workaholic mindset where like you make your work everything, and that's something that I also did, which affected my mental health, is like my self-worth was tied to my job. And if that wasn't going the way I was going, I was depressed. And it's so bad. And I think so many streamers experience this. So many people in content creation experience this. Yeah. So I think it's really important to acknowledge and talk about and get help for, like therapy.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing a bunch of that, because I know it can be confronting to just to open the door even ever so slightly, right? To say that, hey, I've struggled even a little bit. Especially in Australia, right? Where we've got the tall poppy syndrome. Nobody's allowed to be up here, but you're also not allowed to be down here. It's like insane. Everyone's got to be the same. That
in content creation, that's huge as well. Yeah. And something that I always like to say, I think I said it earlier, is there is enough room for everyone. Yeah. There is enough room for everyone in this industry, and you can't compare yourself to another when you're completely different people, you're completely different creators, and you have different wants and needs and goals. So like what works for one person won't work for another. And that's why I say there's enough work for everyone. Yeah. You don't have to be just like clones and this and that. Sure. And you don't have to be intimidated about it. You can be like, I feel like I've always struggled with the emotion of jealousy. Like when I feel jealous, I almost go, oh, you don't feel that way. That's so negative. That's so, but like something that, for instance, my partner is sort of like opening my mind to is like, jealousy doesn't have to be a negative thing. Sure. You can look at someone and be like, oh my gosh, I'm like, that's so cool. Yeah. That's really good. I'm so jealous. I wish I had this opportunity, but I'm so happy for you. Yeah. And you can have that.
It's like a driver, right?
Yeah, like it can drive you. Yeah. And instead of like, I think previously jealousy would affect me in a way that I'm like, I feel that emotion and I go, oh my God, you can't feel that, Kahlia. You shouldn't be feeling that. Not that I go like, oh, fuck you. You have that, like not that vibe, but more like I would get mad at myself or look at myself in a way because I'm not, or I would compare and be like, oh, I'm not achieving this, so maybe I'm bad. And it's not necessarily anything to do with this other person, but it's how you treat yourself in those moments. And I've just completely changed that now to like, jealousy is not doesn't have to be a negative emotion, and you can look at someone who maybe is having something you would aspire to have and be like, that's really cool. And I'm jealous. Well, that's okay.
Yeah, it's sort of flipping it, right? Like it's aspiration or it's admiration.
Yeah,
right? Like it's less about
use it as that drive.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I know. I was similar in that. As a creator for a long time, a photographer, trying to make my way in the creation space.
Yeah,
and you'd see people post a beautiful photo of a waterfall in Iceland. And you'd be like, I'd take a better photo than that. Like that was like for the longest time, that was how I looked at it. And I ended up like just unfollowing a bunch of creators because I was like, oh, you're shit. I'm way better than that.
Yeah.
Or whatnot. So toxic.
Yeah, so toxic. We all go through it.
Yeah. And then it wasn't until that I like started to feel comfortable in my own abilities that I was like, no. Like I should just be like admiring what they're creating. Hey, this is a beautiful photo. What you have done is great. I'm sure that was a 10-kilometer walk to get to that spot. That would have sucked.
And if you had taken that exact photo, it would not be the same. And that's what's awesome about content creation, that we all have our own eyes and we have our own visions and our own way of looking at things. And art is subjective, right? So if someone looks at like your photo or your stream or your content or whatever, and one person might be like, oh my gosh, that is the coolest and most talented person I've ever seen and I vibe with this person. And then another person could look and be like, it's all right. Because it's subjective and we can't take it personally.
One of the first university lectures that I went to, it was a photography lecture. And the photographer, the lecturer, he stood up the front and he said, it does not matter what photo you take. Somebody has taken a better one.
Yep.
And I was just like, oh, that is so good. That's like complete freedom. It's complete creative freedom if you look at it like that. Yeah. Because it doesn't matter what other people.
Don't try to be one thing because...
Yeah, it doesn't matter if they have or haven't.
Yeah.
Take your thing. Do your thing. Just take the photo. Which is funny that I say that now on reflection and then go away and then actually not implement it in the way that I'm looking at other people. Massive hypocrite for me, but...
No, but it's actually the same very muchly in dancing. So in the ballet world, for instance, I grew up constantly being told someone will always be better than you. Like you will never be that sort of mindset. It's very toxic.
Yeah, it's brutal. Yeah.
Therapy. But it is like you will never be the best, but you need to be the best.
Yeah.
It's that sort of like you need to be number one and you need to be the best. Otherwise, what's the point? But also you will never be the best. Yeah. So you will never live up to the expectations that people have for you. And that can really affect you later in life and in other careers and other industries that you go into. The literal childhood I had was your dance teachers so I started dancing when I was 3 and then I was being professionally trained as a ballet dancer by like 7 or 8 and I was in the Australian Ballet School by 8, blah, 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 like all this very intense training.
Yeah.
And so your dance teachers become like another extension of your parents.
Right, yeah, because they're the big boss.
I would go to school, I would get picked up from school, I would go to dancing and I'd be there till the evening. I spent all day there on Saturdays. I almost spent more time with my dance teachers than I did with my real family. And so I really saw my ballet teachers as my family, but the environment that you're in is that these people that are super close to you, you're standing in front of a mirror all day in a leotard as a child with your ballet teachers standing there, the people that are closest to you in the world, standing there telling you everything that's wrong with you. And it's really, really harsh and it really does affect you. And it is that mindset of like, you're never good enough.
Yeah.
And that has absolutely affected me later in life of this feeling of like, I'm never good enough for anything. And there's like, I can always be better. I can always do that. But then it creates that toxic mindset of like, you're never going to live. It's the same thing as the analytics with streaming. Your benchmark is here. You get there. It keeps growing and you are never going to be satisfied with what you've got.
Righto Hamilton.
Yeah. And so, it translates to so many industries, that sort of toxicity and changing the mindset. And I think...
And I'm sure it exists across like in sport and across
Absolutely.
everything, right?
Absolutely.
Like you
In
can
every
never live up
industry.
to the expectations of whatever people are
It's
putting
just
on your
that
shoulders.
perfectionism sort of mindset, and content creation, the way, you know, performing arts does, creates that environment and pits you against other people. And I don't know. I think we got to work together. Work together and help each other.
Yeah, we're all out here trying our best,
especially in Australia, where it is such a small industry, and we are so lucky to have this compact industry and this. Although we're sort of cut off and we don't get the same opportunities maybe people in the US or Europe get.
Sure.
We get our own opportunities, and because we are so much smaller, it's so much more accessible to get those opportunities than if I was in Hollywood. You know. And I think we need to appreciate that more. And not put each other against each other.
Yeah, get behind each other and rally.
And share information. I'm very big on like share information with each other. I don't want to gatekeep anything. So I love like any knowledge that I've acquired from, you know, researching or being in this industry for a few years. Like if someone's new and they don't know about something, I'm like, I'll send you this link. Here's this, here's that, here's the contact you want, here's that, like, because they're not my competition. They're trying to do the same thing I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, tell me about what you've been doing with Reach Out.
So Reach Out is sort of a non-profit mental health organisation here in Australia, and they support primarily like youth, so youth mental health, people under the age of 25, but they don't turn anyone down. It's a really, really cool platform where you have access to like infinite mental health resources and support. They even have something called peer chat, which is you can make an appointment. Like you can book an online chat with a mental health professional to talk. And in this day and age, that's so important because the reality is therapy is expensive. As much as I advocate for therapy and I love it, and I'm like, you know, you got to, you know, if you're spending your money on something, get a mental health care plan that's only about $100 a session, but still that's not accessible for everyone. So something like Reach Out is just a great sort of middle ground where it's like, I need help. I can't afford, I don't know what to do. And I just need to talk to someone. And maybe it's not like an emergency number kind of conversation, but you just really need to talk to someone. You need help. You don't know what to do. You can go there. So I'm an ambassador for Reach Out. So just spreading awareness about what they do, because I think what they do is amazing and more people need to know about it. And in particular, they like supporting streamers. So giving those tools to streamers on things like how to handle mental health topics on stream. So that's the panel I actually did recently at PAX. It was called Overshare, Handling Mental Health Topics on Stream. And it was so cool to see how many people showed up and were like, I need help with this, and setting boundaries, and how do I respond to someone without encouraging, quote unquote, trauma dumping. And it's just a really interesting topic. So I really enjoy talking about it. And I also recently did a charity stream to raise money for Reach Out, and we raised like $7,500.
Oh, amazing.
And we got a team.
That's huge.
Yeah, we got a team like together with friends as well. So together in like my small group of charity raisers, we raised like over $20,000 for them.
Amazing.
And that's just so cool. It's so cool. And it's because it's such a prominent topic, and especially on the internet, because that's where a lot of people turn to when they can't function, you know, IRL. So yeah, I love supporting Reach Out. I love talking about mental health in general. So
yeah, spread awareness.
Spread awareness. That's all it's about. Spread awareness, remove the stigma. Like, I'm an open book with it. I advocate for therapy because I'm in therapy. I'm also, you know, I'm even on antidepressants. I've gone through my own stuff, and I know that everybody else has too. Yeah. So if we just talk, then we don't feel as alone, and it's easier to sort of process, I don't know, with other people. Yeah. And that's the whole thing around mental health.
For sure. I'm big on the more times you can say something, the more comfortable you feel in saying it, the less big it is. Yeah. Right? Like, it's all of a sudden not this massive topic. Exactly. It's just a topic.
Exactly. It's just a topic. It's just normal. I think it should be normal for us to talk about our feelings. Of course, you always need certain boundaries, like things like DMs. Like, that was a huge question on the panel. They were like, how do I, you know, handle these topics without opening the doors to people relying on me? Sure. And I was like, trust me, like, I have been there, and I struggle with having too much empathy for people and giving people too many chances, which is how I ended up in that situation in the first place with the little stalker. So at a certain point you do have to set those boundaries. So my boundaries are, you don't have personal contact with me outside of stream. If you have anything to say, you can say it in the Discord, or I have opened a friend of mine told me about this ticketing system that you can have in your Discord server. So now if someone does want to contact me, they can via a private ticket in my Discord server, which has me and all my moderators in the chat.
Sure.
So you never have personal contact with me unless my moderators are there.
Yeah, not one-on-one personal, but personal in that.
Exactly. Personal, like a little bit if you need to share something or whatever. And that has been like game-changing for that, because I don't want to ignore people and I don't want to suppress people wanting to share something, but I also have to protect myself, and I don't want to feel responsible for your mental health. At the end of the day, I will provide the resources. I will listen and then, provide resources.
But you're not the therapist.
But I'm not a therapist. I'm not qualified to be.
Right.
I'm just someone who gets it.
But even if you were, that's not the place for it.
No, not the place for it.
Even
Absolutely.
if you were a therapist, trained therapist.
Absolutely.
Still not the place for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I just like being that middle ground of like, hey, it's okay. You're not alone. I think because I'm so open about it, people feel comfortable talking. Also because I'm a woman, I think. Maybe some people, especially men, maybe feel a little bit more comfortable, opening up to a woman they don't know online than another guy.
Well, I think it's like you were saying before, it's the parasocial sort of they don't have that in their life, and you are filling that hole of something that they're looking for. Yeah.
But then again, that can so easily be, out of control a little bit, and they can go a little bit further to be like, oh my God, I think I'm in love with this person. Which
Full
is
simp.
that it is.
That's where the term simp comes from, right?
It is where the term simp comes from. And that's also why I am very, very open and very clear with, I'm engaged. I live with my partner. My partner comes onto my stream. I am your friend. I'm your online friend, not your real life friend, but I am your online friend and entertainer, and I'm here, but I am not here to be sexualized, and you do not actually have a relationship with me. This is our beautiful internet family where we can sort of escape reality for a few hours, a day, a week, or whatever, which is what we all need, and we can enjoy, and we can just love video games and giggle and have fun, and it can be this positive thing to escape the negativity of the world for a few hours each day, and that's that. And that's as far as it goes. And since putting boundaries in place, bro, I love my community. I love my space online, and it really does feel like it's ours. And that's the beauty of streaming and content creation, being able to create those little spaces for yourself as well as for others.
Yeah, well, I mean, well done for you for finding the boundaries, setting them, and then
it was a journey.
Yeah, I'm sure. It sounds like it was. I'm sure
it
was. Yeah, with a bit of turmoil in the middle, right?
And I'm still struggling sometimes. I still
sure.
struggle with boundaries sometimes, because it is that sort of empathy and compassion that comes out, and you're like, oh, but then you got to go, hey, but me.
Yeah, sure.
Put yourself first.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thank you for sharing. It's been great to
Thank
chat.
you for having me.
We'll have to get you back, because there's a bunch of other stuff I wanted to talk about.
No, absolutely.
We can't be here all day.
What? I've got stuff to do.
Real life to live.
I've got life.
No, thanks for coming. We'll have you back another time. We'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. I'd love to.
Thanks.
Thank you.